Hi friends, host Eric here, host Talking Fan People. I'm here with the arch admin, Josh, and Ukraine, Elaine. And I want to read this, and Ken. I want to read this italicized part out loud. Fifth process, backup opposing personality. This is usually the first process to jump to defend us. If we are articulating our mission in response to an insult, it is this process that we use. When people hear remarks from someone whose dominant process is their fifth process, they often blow it off before it even registers. When people hear remark, that's when someone is using this process a lot, we get frustrated and think this is so dumb, pointless. Sixth process, discovery, which syntax. One aspect of this auxiliary process is very good at taking care of other people, but not very helpful at taking care of yourself. If someone is being taken advantage of, or if we feel stuck or powerless in any way, one solution is to tie down others so that they don't get in our way. The which accomplishes this by being viciously critical of others, demoralizing them, and stopping them in their tracks. When we see this process in someone else, we might interpret everything they say as criticism. Seventh process, humor, deceiving, trickster. Another way to respond to being controlled is to set double-binding traps. If you intimidate the child, you get to deal with the witch and the trickster. Usually a significant part of someone's humor is about this process. We often distrust others when they are using this process. Eighth process. This is the most amoral of all the cognitive processes in our head, and a person's definition of evil is usually about this process. Often our most painful, traumatizing experiences in life involve this process. This process is often an empty vessel where society pours its influence. Long-lasting hatreds also reside here. Most uses of this process are either awkward and painful or completely phony and banal. If two people trigger the eighth process in each other, they often bring out the worst in each other. So, if you trigger SE in me, and I trigger your eighth function, who brings out the worst in me and I in they? Oh, ESTPs do. So in other words, they bring out SE in me, and I bring out NE in them, and we fucking hate each other. Okay, so let's talk about that by next looking at this other document here. So I call BB's description of the fifth function anti-hero, because that seems like a good name to it for me, better than any of the ones he just provided. But I want to say, I think what he said there about 5 jumping in when you're responding to an insult or something is probably right on the money. Now, for me, NI, the extent to which NI is active, well, put it this way. When pressed on something such that I feel actually insulted, that I have to, like, okay, well, hold on, I need to win this thing. I need to step back and stop playing, because when I'm playing, I'm pretty careless. I'm wee, and then you realize, wait, you're not weeing with me. What's going on here? And when that occurs, then I probably do turn to things that are more heavily NI resonant, because I definitely become aware of concision or economy of language as a relevant factor in winning that thing. It's tricky for me to understand exactly where any TI combo with a bit of TE goal orientation and some and some good old-fashioned FE know-how accomplishes. Yeah, so that's NI. Okay, fine. But now let's look at what he said there about the sixth function. He said, it's very good at taking care of other people, but not good at taking care of yourself. Spot on the money. Right on the money. I think for me, with TE, it's not good at using it for myself. I'm good at using it for other people. I'm good at helping Kimberly have TE. Or benefit from somebody around having at least some TE. You know, I'm very good at making sure that she benefits from the fact that I have better TE than she has, because that's the sort of FE juice I like. That's the particular flavor of FE citrus that I enjoy. It's Tangelo. I yearn for a tall, rich, frothy glass of Tangelo juice. So, anyway, oh right, you're gonna go back to that other thing. Alright, now 6 they call witch because I don't know why. Oh, that's right. If you fuck with 3, you get the 6 and 7. You don't want 6 and 7 combined if you're dealing with an ENTP. You don't want to get ENTPs 6 and 7 combined. That's them doing meaningful work against your feelings. The 7, they say, is what most of our humor is about. BB says, I like that a lot. As an observation, I think it's right on the money. Most of my humor is about feelings. And then the last one, 8, the demon, is because it's amoral. It's that thing that he said there was so... I'd never read this thing until I just read it right there on video. Very, very fucking bright, you know, super bright. And choked me up a little bit. Let's look at it again. It says for the 8th, often our most painful, traumatizing experiences in life involve this process. True for me. This process is often an empty vessel where society pours its influence. True. I reject social mores without even thinking about it. I don't reject them even. I'm surprised that anybody would consider that as a legitimate evaluatory metric. Except about SE stuff. I feel like, nuh-uh, I can too. It's fucking stupid. Anyway, long-lasting hatreds also reside here. Do you think my childhood encounters with ESTPs have been forgotten? I don't think so. I don't think so. Most uses of this process are either awkward or painful, yes, or completely phony and banal, yes. If 2 people trigger each other's 8th process, they bring out the worst in each other, yes. I didn't like how I acted with Ramsey last night. I turned into a fucking ESTP. See, here's the thing about it. I want to make this clear to everybody. Everybody may feel that way about the 8th function, but ENTPs are correct about it. That is the bad function. That really actually is the bad function. And it's empirically so based on who's an asshole. So, I don't know, BB. You're probably an ENTP. That's probably why you think that. Here's what I put. I want to point out some things here from the Moisley text. Let's look at what the first function and such are. Okay, metaframe. That's really what the first function is, which means it's the frame you can't modify. It's the most meta of the frames of ontology. What that means is, as an ENTP, I can't conceive of being in an aquarium that doesn't it isn't filled with the water of potentialities. Ultimately, everything either gets filtered through that, or it gets filtered through the only alternative I have to that, which is physical epistemology, SI. So when I'm traumatized or injured or harmed in some way, I go dry dock, right? I get out of the water of potentiality and I go to the water of introverted sensing. And I just remember what I know from physical epistemology instead of what I don't already know, which is what extroverted intuition is all about. 2, behavior. That's what I do all the time. It's TI shit. 3, scorecard. That's what I actually care about, whether you like me. 4, lack. That's what I don't have, and somebody else do that. 5, friend. I see NI as my friend. He says there, BB says, like, oh, it's the first thing that comes to your side when you get insulted. So, even though he usually doesn't name it something consistent with what I name it here, friend. Maybe I call it friend because I see it as jumping to my defense, and he calls it opposing self for some reason, because it's the alternative approach to what one default uses. Because as a 7 first, and as a hidden agenda FE person, obviously I have my ultimate methodologies, my ultimate goal being FE. My methodologies are generally merriment. I'm in Alpha Quadrant. I like things merry. So under normal situations, I'm not using NI because I'm not responding to something attacky. Anyway, enough about that. 6, foe. ICTE is the foe. He highlights the fact that it's the helper. It's both, right? So I'm helpful with 6. I don't like other people using 6. I see it as too much potential for abuse. 7, well, we know about that. I call it the ineffable one, the one that you really just can't get. And I call 8 automatic, which means it's like a machine that does shit that you just don't even like. Well, I mean, I found that eye-opening reading that shit about SE right there, and now I feel it's not quite so automatic. If I think about it more, maybe I can figure some metacognitive backdoor. Also note here the second line, open frame. This is not correct. This should be closed frame. This one, you can't do work directly on that frame. Okay? The second one, you can do work directly on this process. 2, you can't do work directly on the process, but you can on the frames. The fourth one, it's mostly a frame. These are frames, these are processes foremost. They're both, but anyway, I didn't have room, but I couldn't explain all that in the table. So, the point is, the first identity of your fourth slot is as a closed frame. It's a frame that you can't work on. You know you're getting judged on SI grounds at your own SI's intuitive, inherent, epistemological, I know it kind of nature. So it's a closed frame. You can't change what counts as knowing something. And it is mostly a frame for you because it's your fourth function. However, you can, the processes which come secondary are open for 4. And the processes for 1 are open as well. Alright, so 5, the value is simply a good value. 6 is a bad value. 7 is bad value you're blind to. And 8 is a good value you're blind to. So, just a little exploration of slot mechanics. Hey baby, I think you're sexy. I wonder if you'd like to hear my lecture on slot mechanics. Is something one might say to a lovely lady at a symposium. Comments, thoughts, questions, concerns, queries, complaints?
I have so many complaints.
Yeah, but what's the thing with open and closed processes? Would it
Oh,
be the same for introverts and extroverts?
well, um, I I don't know the answer to that question. I haven't thought it all out yet, but I got look. It goes like this: the open process means that um, it's first and foremost something that I'm using real time, and I'm not concerned about how it's operating so much on a on an instantiated as time objects and then run through some relative judging function process. I'm not concerned about status reports that persist from TI. So as a consequence, I can work on the process isn't tethered to its own need to stay put. And I can choose to use TI in different ways, and I can choose to meta about using TI. And it's not a frame first, it's a frame second, which means being TI sound doesn't have any persistent meaning. That's why it's not a frame, it's a process.
What if second slot is FI?
Second slot FI would also be an open process. Same thing. It's just saying that that you're gonna use that your conclusions are temporary within the process itself until you render them meaningful by first of all, of course, you render meaningful by seeing what part of the TI do they float in. I'm sorry, if you're FI second, NE first, what part of the NE do they float in, and then you link it to your third slot, TE, and you go relate to a goal, and then all of a sudden you've got yourself a purposeful act of cognition. Alright, and then these ones over on the backside are pretty simple. It just, you think of NI. I think of NI as a good thing. I think of TE as a bad thing. I think of FI as I don't know. Just be like, I don't know. Just question mark, right? Just mystery time. And I said blind good. Like, I guess that's wrong. It's just neutral. Just, yeah. I don't know what to put there. I'm not done with this thing yet.
But does it not all get messed up with introvert and extrovert judging and perceiving?
I think it's more relevant whether you have a judging and perceiving function first than it is whether you are an introvert or not. So it's like, for you, TI DOM, it's going to be a closed frame. So that means everything that lands in your aquarium lands in TI water, no matter what. So it's always going to have TI goo on it. You can't get all the TI goo off of it ever. And
no, but if it's closed, what is NE for?
Well, for you, NE is an open process. But you don't use it like that. Because what I mean by open process is you can in theory NE about NE all you want. You can TI about TI, but you can't TI about TI enough to get out of TI. You can any about any enough to get out of any in theory, except you can't get at any that direction because it's all about more possibilities, so it's meaningless to even make the distinction. The reason being because any is a metaphysical action function. It's not a epistemology, and it's not a judging function. So in that capacity, you can any about TI, sure.
Then it's not closed.
Well, no, NE's not closed. TI's closed. TI's still closed. Because you can any about TI, but you're either NEFEing about TI or you're NETIing about TI, and either way, you go like, look, see,
and you can change TI.
I know, and look, so you change the TI thing, the TI instantiation, and you go, see, and it's still in TI water.
Yeah, but how did it get in there? It's a closed space.
The TI is a closed frame. It's the farthest frame. It's the frame you can't get out of. You can get out of all of the frames by metacognition.
What about the force slots?
Oh, well, in that case,
too?
no, okay, that's the thing. It's a closed frame in conjunction with SI. For me, or for you, it's a closed frame in conjunction with FE. You have to have the alternative for traumatized moments. So when Susie, if somehow Susie were stripped of all control in life, like she were to be kidnapped right now or something, if I were to go over there and kidnap her and I'd take off my mask, and it turns out that instead of me, I'm actually Adolf Hitler. I'd been preserved cryogenically, and it feels good. Yeah, let's go to Berlin. And I handcuff her, I toss her in the back of a van, and I'm driving around like this. She's rolling around. Ow, I'm hitting the wall, stop. And then what would happen is Susie would get schmoozy. She'd be like, hey, kidnapper, you are one special guy. I like you. Can we sit down and talk? Let's just talk for a bit. I am so demure. I love to defer to you. It's my nature. You got me. You found my core. I'm super deferential. I'm yours. I'm at your disposal. Please tell me how I can make you happy. And the kidnapper would be like, well, I really like that change of attitude. Undo the handcuffs and whatever. It's like, and then 6 hours later, he's really into Susie at this point. He's like, so anyway, that's when she left me, and I was just like, oh my god, that's the last straw. And then, boom, that fucking hammer, like the back end of a claw hammer, crashes through his skull right at that moment. Susie's back to TI again. Oops, where did FE go? Well, the problem's solved. She doesn't need to be an FE anymore. So I think that's how it would play out for you, right? You got two frames of reference. You're either pissed off at somebody for TI kidnapping you, trying to make you believe some bullshit, in which case you're throwing hammers left and right. Which don't...
Yeah, what the fuck happened to us?
What?
I went to get pizza, and somehow I missed Susie killing someone with a claw hammer.
Right, well, it's because... See,
Hold on, what?
It's how you transition back from FE to TI, Ken.
I thought I heard something about Hitler.
Well, I was Hitler, it turned out. I tricked her. I went to kidnap her. See, she let me in because she's like, oh my god, it's host Eric. And then when I got in, I took a mask off. Turns out I was Hitler. I'd been cryogenically preserved. I took Susie back to Berlin with me. But she schmoozed me into untying her and shit. And then I was starting to tell her about all my problems. And she was listening attentively. And then I looked away for a second and she hit me in the head with a claw hammer. The back end of it. That's what made it gruesome. And I was like, ow, my brain. And then I died. I spent so much having that cryogenically preserved, were my last words.
The point being...
Third voice function closed?
Yeah. So in a sense that you just transition from a closed system of pretending to...
No, I'm saying that the closed frame has the alternative, which is dry dock. So you're in the water of TI all the time, unless you get a hole in the boat, in which case you pull it out of the water, and then the air is your fourth function, FE. For me, that's for Susie. For you, it would be you're in the water of NI, metaphysical epistemology, a metaphysical knowledge, okay? And then when you get a hole in your boat, you go play football or something. Or you're like, fuck it, I'm going out and getting drunk and getting laid tonight. I've had enough of this truth shit. I'm going to go make some shit happen. I feel traumatized. I'm going to go fuck some people. I'm going to go play some football. I'm going to go push some people up against the wall and say, no, fuck you. I'm going to go get a badass car. I'm going to work on it. I'm going to be like, my car is more badass than you. This is when you're traumatized, Ken.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because that sounds like me.
When you're traumatized. Are you traumatized?
Right, yeah. So it sounds like me.
Ukraine Elaine, do you agree that that's what you do when you're traumatized? Do you go buy a badass muscle car and rev the engine?
No, more like I stuff myself with food or do something like that.
That's more SI.
Stuff myself with food, or I don't know, go shopping and spend money when I wasn't supposed to.
That's SE.
Yeah.
Things that I think are bad are SE. Cancer.
How come is
SE.
How come is stuffing yourself with food at SI?
Because that's attending to your physical comfort of your body. And that's introverted sensing's physical aspect. So everyone has, each of these has a physical aspect and a metaphysical aspect, but SI is a physical epistemology first and foremost. It's the way that we know things as concretely known that comes from physical realities, not metaphysical ones. So I know I opened this morning. I got out of the fridge and opened it this morning because I remember that happening in the physical world. I actually did it. I have mostly a two-element system of memory, a visual element and a narrative tag kind of an element where I can say, oh yeah, I got this out of the fridge this morning and opened it, refers to these things I did in the physical world, right?
I'm not sure. I think that would be like eating on time, or I don't know, timely remembering something to do on time. But if you just stuff yourself with food, and for instance you're no longer hungry, but you keep pushing it, then that's a C, I guess.
No, I mean, I don't think it is, because I see SE as about action upon two or more physical objects outside of you, whereas SI includes, in most considerations, in most capacities, your interaction with the shit directly, you and the thing. Like this cigarette doesn't interact with the world in any other way except through me, right? It's once I bought this box of cigarettes, its entire existence was as a referent to me. And that's the case because it has no awareness and it's unable to observe its own existence. I can observe its existence, and nobody else in general is going to observe its existence at all, and therefore it's not real to anybody else, except insofar as I make it real like this. So this cigarette, its entire existence, once I got the pack of cigarettes, its reality, the reality of this cigarette, is comprised of my interactions with it. And now it moves to Oregon, and it decides to take advantage of their euthanasia laws up there. You lived a long and happy life, cigarette. You were a star for a brief moment here. You had such humble ambitions when they put you in that pack back there at the Philip Morris factory. Your name was Stirred. Stirred was not a name you chose, not a name you would have asked for when you were just a Marlboro 57, short, awkward, named Stirred. The other cigarettes, they'd make fun of you, but you grew up king size. You grew into that name. You say, I'm Stirred, damn it. Well, Sturt, you ended up being the most famous cigarette in the whole pack. Congratulations.
I'm still trying to see the difference. Like, I don't know, if you engage in real sex, for instance, like if it's a person, that's a C. If it's a doll, then that's
Sex is a double. Sex is a double. You get SI and SE, but you could do it in two different ways. Basically, if you have sex, like, sort of block everything out and focus on how good your body feels, like, ooh, the moisture feels really good, then that's SI. If you're like, push me over and treat me like a slut, then that's SE or FE. Or if you're
Have I left my mic on certain nights?
or if you're like, no, you just lie there and take it, homie. And he's like, slap him. And you're riding that cock. And you're like, fuck you, bitch. Slap his ass. That's SE. That's SEFE. Also, it's called being a psychopath. But I wouldn't imagine anybody ever actually doing that. But that's how I picture ESTPs during sex. They're like on top of some woman and like, man, yeah, fuck you, bitch. Come on your face, and you're like, can I call you? And he's like, yeah, I guess I might call you back. That's that's my caricature of SE males and females in general, and their goddamn stupid going along with SE males shit and like liking it and then rewarding it. Fuckers, I'm at war with the ESPs. Yes.
Please tell us in greater detail how much you don't like SE.
Yes, I don't like it that much.
Mm-hmm. I would say on the flip side, people who might have roll any or whatnot might see it as like people who are just sort of like, just sort of goofing around. It's like, are you ever gonna get fucking serious? No, you're just gonna you're gonna keep playing. Okay, all right.
Which character voice would you like me to use in response, Ken? Yeah, I get that. I do understand that the other thing about SE is it does comprise the weak spots of an NE Dom for sort of constitutional reasons as well. It's like SE is follow through. It is the follow through upon that which has already been completed in its metaphysical aspect. And in my model, everybody has, for each of the aspects of each function, one that they view as the absolute value and one they view as the instrumental value. So for me, SE's metaphysical aspect is the absolute value, and the instrumental value is the physical aspect. But I find that the physical aspect of that using SE well, in other words, successfully implementing the physical aspects of SE in order to attain the absolute value of the metaphysical aspects of SE, that runs afoul of other absolute values in the stack that I prioritize more highly, and that are rendered mutually exclusive with the SE values frequently enough that I tend to view SE as just persistently the loser in every single value conflict. And the thing is, it runs afoul of the absolute value of my meta frame, which is potentiality. Because SE is following through on what's already been decided. That means no more talking about it, no more deciding about it, no more keeping it in conditionality land where time goes both directions and we can undo and try it the other way without ever having done anything. We're gonna actually do it now, and then no more. We're gonna collapse potentialities into realities. That is something that runs afoul of the absolute value of NE as my meta frame, which is metaphysical. The metaphysical aspect of NE as an absolute value, and the physical aspect of NE as instrumental best and largely unvalued. It also works out that for me with NE, the physical aspect is more play, and the metaphysical aspect is more purposeful. So when I'm really playing any physical aspect, what I'm doing is I'm walking around looking for cool little rocks and little pieces of metal in the alley and stuff. That's physical NE. And then I'm thinking to myself stuff like, I go home and I know I'm going to put it in this little bottle that I have where I put my cool little things. And then I start thinking maybe like, oh, well, I should start thinking about maybe making layers of different kinds of cool little things in the bottle. Or I think maybe, oh, well, I could glue them together and then break the bottle and it would retain the shape of the bottle. That's me doing physical aspect any real time when I'm walking down the alley. It has abstract components to it, but it's physical in the sense that I'm playing, and it's not a big value at all, absolutely, that I retain those particular potentialities. In fact, that runs counter to the absolute value of retaining potentialities in general. And so that's why SE, it runs afoul fundamentally of my metaframe's absolute value, and thus it can't get along with me. I think the system's coming together in my head now. I didn't know any of this before we made this video, so it's good stuff. Thanks for watching.
I'm wondering
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm wondering, like, if you take an example of a strategy, let's say it's a war, and you're just strategizing, so you're also implementing your strategy, and at the same time you're metacogniting about it, what should be, like, what are the options here? So how would be SE related to this example?
That's an excellent question, and the answer is, as an ENTP, I'm fundamentally tactical, and I prioritize maintaining tactical flexibility over any strategic considerations always, because my absolute value of my metaframe is to maintain a potentiality rich environment. And so this comes from talking with Kato. That's the link there to this Kato's video. So because that's my absolute value of maintaining potentialities, I'm a much better field general than I am a commander in an actual war. You wouldn't want me to be the commander because, well, I mean, you probably, I don't know. If it was actually an extended war, like we're gonna slog this out World War II style, you don't want me to be the commander. You want me to be a field general and give me lots of resources and lots of rope to play around. Now, it's because I like tactics. I don't like strategy because strategy renders things TE. TE cooperates a lot with SE insofar as TE says, here's a more efficient way to have a decided course of action that you SE follow through on. So when TE and SE get along well, then they make things that are both efficient and followed through on, and they're decided according to special interests. In other words, subjective interests. And that runs afoul of the NTP paradigm, which says, no, let's not decide conclusions on particular interests at all. Let's not collapse to causality, especially not according to special interests, because once you make things caused, then you can no longer make that, then they lose their relevancy as conclusions. So we might conclude to do something. It's relevancy that's a conclusion. It's very relevant that we've concluded to do that until we actually do it, at which point our conclusions about what we ought to do are irrelevant. It's no longer meaningful in the conditionality realm because it's actually happened. We can go back and say, well, if we had done it this way, blah, 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 but that's a waste of time. So, because of that, you've got SE that is following through on stuff that's been decided. In an ESTP, it's been decided on conditionality grounds, but because they're an SE DOM, conditionality itself floats in the water of following through on shit. So it's almost like they lock behind them what's supposed to be untethered time object referent points. So, in other words, you're supposed to be able to move those around with TI. You're supposed to go like, well, this would be consistent with this other thing that I tentatively or I'm forgetting a word, but contingently or something have affirmed. So, okay, I'm temporarily, for the time being, affirming this conclusion, and then I'm checking new shit out against these conclusions. Well, the problem with an ESTP, they're checking new shit out against conclusions that have been rendered caused. So they're no longer open to being moved back here. Things have to be consistent with what they've already done, not with what they've already concluded. Because I can change what I've already concluded, but I can't change what I've already done. And if I'm forcing TE to be subservient to a framework of that which has been done, or that which has been decided, then I'm a nightmarishly effective executor of stupidity, of my own personal history of bad ideas. I'm excellent at consistently executing my own pattern of bad ideas. It's terrible. That's why ESTPs suck ass. It seems to be a theme recently. We keep coming back to it. We do. You guys need to stop pushing me back to talking about these SE people and how much ESTPs suck ass. I'm trying to make friends with them. I'm trying to cozy up to them, but you guys loathe them so much that you just keep dragging the conversation back there. Anywho,
I have a secret agenda of finding out if I'm compatible.
What is your hidden agenda? Let's see. You are an INFJ, so your hidden agenda is to be healthy and to have a consistent identity over time, and to be sure that you know where your next everything is coming.
That would be SI. You're talking about relative consistency.
Oh, okay. Wait, no, I'm sorry. You're right. You would be
TI.
Oh yeah, TI. Oh yeah, your TI hidden agenda. Oh yeah, that's why I like you guys so much. Because in the moment, because this is the thing, you are metaphysically, you have the metaphysical aspect of TI as the absolute value. You don't prioritize or value TI in the real-time application of it. In other words, you'll get fussy about bad FE, even if it's good TI, because you think, look, you can keep the good TI without adding all the shitty FE. So as a consequence, you don't really have a leg to stand on here to say that it's not appropriate for me to focus on the FE, because after all, you're not making your TI any more effective at all. Not that I care about effectiveness because I'm an INFJ, but still, what we do have to look at are two sets of data here. You can look at the consistency within the reasoning, you can look at consistency with perceptual concerns. Why not have both? You're such a smart guy. Why are you applying this intelligence in such an FE clumsy way when you're just not at the optimal Eric you could be if you just did the same TI shit with your schmoozy FE instead of with your bruising shitty FE Eric? Then you'd really have something there. And I wouldn't sit here and silently think all this and not tell it to you. Right? That's why I love you guys. Because you do prioritize TI after you walk away from the conversation. What matters in the takeaway is not my bad FE for you. What matters in the takeaway is what it gives you for your hidden agenda. So just like me, what matters is not the bad FE in the moment. The fact that Mia is scowling at me is fine, as long as when they come back next time they think their takeaway was, wow, Erica's smart. Because I don't really care about being right, but I do care a lot about you guys thinking I'm super smart. That's why I do shit like this, so that you INFJs will be impressed with me.
Yep. That works.
That is how it works. I'm an expert, everybody. You should buy my expert books.